Alright, so when I sat down to write the script for this video, I was immediately busy with a little homework, and I had some other things going on as well. So I had some second thoughts about recording it, would it be too personal? Do I really need to make it, etc., etc.? But now I think about it, I really need to get this out and do more good for me, but more importantly, for others to hear something and hear someone speak about something that's so tough to speak about. Um, so yeah, today is National Suicide Awareness Day, and to start with this little life story business, I'd like to say, if you're considering suicide, you don't know, you feel uh, obligated to talk to someone, you feel, then just do it. Just talk to someone. It's better to have said something to someone, even if it's someone you don't know. Um, Put yourself out there. Make sure you got someone who cares, because you do have someone who cares, but you need to speak with that someone. And if you can't find anyone that you're willing to talk to, if you have something going on that is very pertinent to you, then I would advise calling this National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. And honestly, if you're very much considering suicide, they're probably the best people to talk to. They're trained, certified professionals, and they know what to do. Now, to start with my story, I did an Instagram story this May regarding mental health awareness during Mental Health Awareness Month, and I gave a little bit of insight to my story, nothing too major. I talked about a couple of my conditions and what they mean to me and um, how they help make me live my life, or allow me, or what they do to my life. But today I want to pretty much present my full testimony of my story through mental health and mental hellfire, essentially, really is what I'd call it. Um, Whereas, today is National Suicide Awareness Day, I wanted to give some people an outlook as to not only who I am, but a foundation of what they can do to get out of their situation. So at the start, as a child, pretty much everything was going pretty breezy, pretty easy breezy, whatever. But I was able, like, I was pretty academically gifted. I was able to read like four from kindergarten through seventh grade. I was always ahead of my class. I'd even working a couple grades ahead. So on paper and in public, it looked like I was doing pretty well. But at home, there was another side of the young Peyton York that existed. To put it nicely, I was basically just a demon child. I tormented my parents in ways that were just so mean, just so hateful. And I didn't know why until later, and I'll get into that later. But yeah, I'd hit my dad. I'd get into fights with him. It was bad, and then I'd yell at my mom. I made her cry a couple times, and even just saying that and thinking about it makes me emotional. It makes me hate my old self. Um, but yeah, essentially I was just this little bomb of like a rage that was just waiting to go off. It never really did until about eighth grade. And here we go. So eighth grade was just all around a challenging year, at home and in the school. I had issues with friends and teachers and grades and whatever, and it was different. Everything was actually challenging for once outside of school. It was crazy. Yeah, I didn't like the eighth grade, to say the least. So at one point through that year, I'm just this delusional kid. I got so frustrated that I started skipping school, and at one point I started skipping school for what would end up to be right around 3 weeks. I barricaded myself in a room, and it was kind of cool. Just my parents were gone during the day because they both had to work. So I was like, I can go to Xbox, worry about my KD on a shooter game or whatever, and play games and eat all day. That's cool. At first, at least, and then it started to be I don't have to think about school, so what else do I think about? I don't think about video games 24/7. So I started to notice things, notice how my parents were talking, notice how I affected my parents and their mood, and how sad they got when they thought about me, how upset they were. And It's the first time I'd really felt regret for something that I'd done to my parents. As weird and scary that is to say, honestly. But it was so revolutionary to me at the time that, along with everything else that was going on in my world through school it kick-started my first real sad depression. I'd been angry depressed before. Like I said, that was my childhood. I'll get into that later. But it was very tough, to experience one of the deepest emotions, regret and sadness through regret, at the time where I was already mentally unstable, very much so. So around week 3 on my lonely, everything just started to compound so badly that I did have my first experience with suicidal thoughts then. It ranged early on. It was like, oh, I just wish I wasn't here in my room. I wish I could be anywhere else. To things like, I know where the guns are. I I don't want to be here. I don't want to be anywhere. I could. It rain. It. I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to say it. It ranged from a lot of things, and I mean, it was scary for me. So at the time, my parents were, well, this is all going on. My parents were warning me about calling the police or whatever, to get me out of my room. They had threatened it so many times that I was just like, they're not going to do it. It doesn't, it doesn't matter to them that much. But to this day, I mean, and this is something I wrote on my script. I sincerely, like, absolutely believe that if they didn't call the police, then that within 3 days, that I might not be able to be sitting here telling you guys about my experiences. I might not have made it out alive. But anyways, they showed up. Luckily for me, at least. They told me to pull everything away from the door and come out of the room, and so reluctantly, I was like, I really don't want to do this, but I'll do it because of the police. So that choice for them and for me just saved my life, really. But yeah, I mean, obviously skipping school, there's no actions without any consequences. So I went to truancy court, and it was terrible, terrible for a 13-year-old kid to go to and have the judge threaten to take you away from your family. I mean, that's all you know is your family. Um, and then school wasn't much better at the same time. One of my teachers told everyone that I had skipped because I chose to, and then I got jokes made about me and people picking on me a little bit. And I mean, it was just really tough as a 13-year-old kid, to have that experience. But yeah, luckily for me, I played my part in court. I did well to get through that, and I got to stay with my family. But I mean, I had stipulations on it. I had to go to therapy, and I hated therapy, but beforehand. But yeah, therapy, I coasted through it for about a year. That's how long they said I had to go to it, with my family. Not like at the same time, but I had to go, and then my family had to know I was going. And I never realized it there, but my time there really helped me repair myself in a way. Not completely. I mean, I was just patching up holes in my mind. I learned a lot about my parents and how they feel about me, and through that time, I was just kind of blowing it off. It's like, it is what it is. I don't care. F therapy. I don't care. Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to take that tone. It should have been a more serious tone. Um, but yeah. After therapy, midway through that, or actually about 3/4 of the way through that year, they had recommended me to a psychiatrist, and that was really tough because my psychiatrist diagnosed me with a few things: OCD, major anxiety, and a thing called disruptive, no, disruptive mood dysfunctional disorder, or dysfunctional mood disruptive disorder. And it's a disease that's highly linked to bipolar and autism. And anyways, she noted that my anger is mostly linked to depression in adolescence. And so, like, because anger is a secondary emotion, some people know, some people don't. But it really hit me. It was like, wow, that's why I was angry, huh? Because I was depressed this whole time. And looking back on it, I was bullied. I was super smart, but I was never a great athlete. I had a few friends, but it was harder for me to make friends in it, and that's probably stemming from my anxiety that I now know that I live with. And it's just like, all of it started to make sense, and it just was hard. It was very hard. As a 14 to 15-year-old kid, hearing that you have all these conditions, and that you're living with them, and you've been living with them. It's really hard on you to do that, especially when you're trying to create an identity for yourself at the time. Being 15, that's a very impressionable young age. You're trying to figure out who you are, but when someone tells you that you are bipolar, you are OCD, you have anxiety, um, it's hard to dissociate that with yourself. And so that was really tough on me. And while that was going on at home, school wasn't much better, to be honest with you. I had major problems with schoolwork, getting that done, having motivation, on top of the fact that, the group that I was friends with through basically all of middle school would end up, most of them would start picking on me and calling me names, and it eventually ended in me getting into a fight with one of them, fist fight, and I left, and I basically never returned to that friend group for a while. Like, I didn't ever talk to any of them for a long while. Um, after that, I really didn't have friends. Um, I mean, and so while, everything's going on, like, I've been diagnosed with anxiety, OCD, all that's DMDD, and all my school stuff's going on. It's not great. Um, it's the thoughts that go on through your mind are like, really, am I just gonna be that way? Am I just gonna be OCD? Am I just gonna have anxiety? Am I just gonna have depression? Is this just gonna be my life? Everything is terrible. I hate school. I hate home. I hate everything. But luckily, around that year, I had a teacher, my English teacher, very much pushed me to to go out of my comfort zone with friends and stuff, meeting people. I don't know if she had to have known something, because, or it could just be God, honestly. That's what I'm banking on, is that it was God's way of pushing me into the right light. And so I'd met a bunch of people who were in my classes that I would never have talked to, but I was pushed into similar situations. I had similar interests in them. They were all nice people, very nice people. And it just goes to show that, you know, and even still, I was always a smart kid. I'm still perceived as a smart kid. They had, even though I had friends, it's hard to it's hard to say that I didn't have doubts, because I did. I did have doubts about my life. I did have thoughts of suicide occasionally. Um, I don't take losses very well, so that always hurt. Was when I lost a friend, or when if I had asked a girl out or something and it didn't work out. I mean, it sucked. Um, or I was talking to a girl and it just didn't work out. Anyways, so it just goes to show that even if things look good, I mean, the cliche that everyone uses, don't judge a book by its cover, but it's very serious. If someone who even looks good looks good, sounds good, everything looks like it's going right in their lives, you never know. Don't judge them based on that. I don't know. That's a tangent that I'll go on later, and I'll speak on that later. But anyways, to continue my story. So it wasn't really midway. It wasn't really until midway through my 10th grade year, so I'd really had a major shift in the balance of that situation. Like, everything sucked. Everything felt like it sucked. The scales were tipping towards, I'm gonna kill myself. Um, but I was pushed into a leadership training program by that same English teacher, and it was called the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, and it was a service-based leadership development course. So it really opened my eyes up to what service to others means to me. Like, I had always liked serving, but like never to that extent. And to know, like, at the end, we did this huge service project where we packed 25,000 meals in a matter of 2 hours, and just to think that, wow, I helped with that. I helped those people who are not me. Like, it's very completing, very fulfilling. And that was something that was like I had a passion for. And I'll talk about passions. That's basically the big thing here in this lesson. Um, is that and at the same conference, they held the church service, and I don't want to go into. I can go into full in depth another time on my religion, and I'll probably give my testimony to some people. But I'm a Christian. but I haven't always been. I was raised as a Christian. I separated myself from the faith at around like midway through sixth grade or seventh grade year, and stayed out until about 11th grade, really. Um, and those times were, uh, it was awful, and I felt like I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have a passion in life. But 10th grade really, it kicked up that interest of Christianity, you know. Um, and it wouldn't just be Christianity. I'm not trying to go on this whole spiel. I know I have a lot of secular friends and they don't want to hear it. I can't make you be a Christian. But I, I'll just go into this. It gave me a purpose. Along with the service, it gave me a purpose. I felt like I was meant for more than myself. Um, and so over those 2 years, I started developing my faith through my parents, my friends, my parents' friends, all that stuff. And I took a lot of time to work on myself, as a Christian, as a new Christian again, on my habits as a Christian, how I treat people as a Christian. And so a lot of thoughts, a lot of thinking. And, I was baptized eventually last year. That was when I was baptized. So you can take that as you will. Like I said, now I have a lot of secular friends, people who follow my page who are secular. And I can't make you believe. Like that's the big thing. I can't make you believe. But even if you were looking at it from a secular standpoint, the big point of this life story message is that to find your purpose, to find a passion that you have genuinely and derive that into a purpose. Build that into a purpose, not derive. You build that into a purpose. Um, and that's really what saved me. Was not just It wasn't the conference of Ryla. I mean, Ryla was cool. It was fun. I very much enjoyed it. I love the people there. But it was what I had gained from it as a person. And and yeah. So, and I'm not saying that like, wow, you found your purpose, it's all better. It's not all better. Shoot, I mean, I still deal with depression, all the time. And anxiety all the time, especially anxiety. But what happened that year is that I did find that purpose. I found that will to keep going. So when I think of um, shoot, I'm so sad right now. Like everything sucks. I'm alone. That's a big thing with me is being lonely. But I'm alone. I've got no friends. I've got no one to talk to. Um, but it's like you gotta think. You gotta take everything into consideration. I may be lonely now. I may be sad now. I may be heartbroken now. I may have lost something or someone, a job, a friend, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a husband, a wife, a father, a mother. Um, but that's not me. I am my passion. I am my purpose. And I carry on whatever I lost or whatever I'm feeling. I trudge through that with strength because I have my purpose. I have my passion in life. Um, and I mean, this is the thing that I also want everyone else to hear is not just the people who are listening to this who have suicidal thoughts, but the people, everyone, um, because you all matter. And as much as it's hard to believe that you matter when you have suicidal thoughts, trust me, I know. But I see you. I see you who has the guy who has suicidal thoughts. I see you, the girl who doesn't care about her own life, who doesn't care about what other people think because she's gonna take her own life anyways, or he's gonna take his own life anyways. Because I know who you are, because you're me from 8th to 10th grade. And those thoughts you're having, they're debilitating, they're self-destructive, and scarily, the most part is they're hard to get away from. They're hard to ditch. Um, and if you feel like you don't or you can't matter um, to yourself, take it upon yourself to matter to others. That's the thing that saved me. I still, I still believe that like at those times, I did not feel like I mattered. But what I did feel was that I can matter to somebody else, which is why I have to keep going. And it doesn't get better at once. I mean, I will be the guy who tells you it will never get better all at once. but you have to be strong. You got to plant your roots into something you believe in. That's another thing. It could be a cause that you love, community service, mission trips, donating, social activism, music, art, whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy. Find something that fulfills you and just run with it. Don't let the now of I'm lonely, I'm sad, I lost something. Don't let that feeling dictate your life, because you are so much more than that. You have, even if you don't have talent, you have a love for something. You have a passion for something, and that matters more than anything else in this world. Don't define yourself by your depression. It's hard to think about that like in that way. Trust me, I know. Like I said earlier, as a 15-year-old who was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, OCD, that mood disorder, it's hard not to define yourself as that, because you hear it and you're like, man, that's me. Um, but that's not you. That's what you have, but that's not you. You are you. I mean, that sounds stupid, but you really are yourself. You are your passions. You are your loves. You are your compassion. You are your purpose. Um, and find that, experiment, do things to develop that purpose. Um, but yeah, that's basically my big thing here is that I just want to let you guys know that you all matter. I love you all, and your passion, find it, run with it, make it your purpose. My final words today, if you need help, seek it out. No matter who you are, where you're from, find someone if you need it. You can text me. I mean, like I said, I'll be answering as many DMs as I can all day. If you need someone to talk to, if you don't have any questions for me, I mean, if you have any questions for me about this, just ask in the comments or text me or DM me or whatever about my life. And I'll try to answer as many as I can. But if you made this far, this is somehow, thank you for listening. I hope I can bring a positive outlook on the subject. And I'd rather my legacy be someone who cared than just another guy who didn't. And as the great Jim Valvano said during his SV speech, during his mid-cancer battle, don't give up. Don't ever give up. And those are the words that I live by to this day. So thank you very much for listening. I'm going to have to cut this down a whole lot, but I appreciate you all.